Zuby, welcome to my kitchen. Thank you so much for joining me here today. All my guests, I buy a present. I didn't know what to get you. I know you're into your fitness, and I assume you do olive oil. That seems to be something that people like to do if they're into fitness. So I saw this in a shop, sort of ridiculously expensive olive oil as people do now, and it's the world's best olive oils for 2019. It won this silver award. I did ask the guy in the shop if they had the gold award-winning one, and they said no. So you're gonna have to take silver. I'm sorry about that, but
thank you very much.
Hopefully you'll like it. And I'm fascinated by awards. It's when someone puts an award on something, it's only someone's opinion, and yet everyone seems to want to have it. We've given this podcast 2 awards. When I did Soccer AM years ago, it was a football show I did for 11 years. I gave myself 6 awards on that, and I've given myself 2 awards on this. And if you say it long enough, you should start giving yourself awards, by the way. When you do it long enough, people start quoting it, because no one cares where the award comes from. It's just someone's opinion, or it's a load of people voting. That's kind of the way awards work. I gave my Twitter site for a while. I gave it award-winning Twitter destination, but I took it off because I got bored of it. But people used to quote that. So you're an award-winning podcast here. You do a lot of things, but I suppose because you do so many things, we've discussed it in the intro to you. But just explain who you think you are at the moment, what you're doing.
Wow. Well, I'm Zuby. I'm an award-winning rapper, award-winning podcaster.
Perfect.
Award-winning weightlifter, award-winning author, quite a few things. So primarily, I would consider myself a professional musician and creative entrepreneur, first and foremost. So I'm best known originally, up until the last 6 months anyway, certainly best known for my music. I'm an independent artist. I've put out 5 albums and 3 EPs independently. I started a podcast at the beginning of the year called Real Talk with Zubi, which I've been put out about 46, 47 episodes at the time of speaking now. It's also been picked up by a radio station, Voice FM in Southampton, so it's broadcasting on there now as well. I wrote and released my first book, Strong Advice, Zubi's Guide to Fitness for Everybody, a couple of months ago, and that's doing really well. And then, I'm a lot of things. I do quite a bit of social commentary now. That's something that I didn't explicitly kind of go out of my way to do, but last year I just started becoming a little bit more outspoken about certain things that I was seeing in the world and voicing my opinion on certain issues and whatnot. And that's something that's gained a lot of traction for me. So many people have discovered me through that. A lot of people have discovered my music and my podcast and my creative work off the back of it. So it's kind of like they came in through a side door or a back door rather than finding me directly through my music. But that's fine. I'm somebody who is very much driven by the idea of fulfilling one's potential, both for myself and encouraging other people to do the same. My sort of motto is desire to inspire. So my goal in life is to have a positive impact on over 10 million people. That's what I'm striving for through my music, through my words, through my actions, through everything that I do. Lord willing, I've got a long way to go. So
why is that something that you think is important to inspire 10 million people?
Well, it used to be 1 million. It became 10 million after I read a book.
Go 1 billion.
Exactly. Yeah, 10 million's probably under-egging it. But once I get to 5, then I can be like, okay, cool. I can up it again now, because 1 million.
Yeah, but why would you want to? What's the purpose of it?
Because that's how you actually make the world a better place, right? You've got a lot of people obsessed with trying to make the world a better place by trying to control other people's thoughts, behaviors, or actions, which is impossible, or trying to completely control the way a nation does something or the way the entire world does something, and you can't do that. But what you can do is control your sphere around you. If everybody fulfills their own potential, then the world will become a better place, because that'll have a knock-on impact on everybody who knows you, and then your wider society and community, and ultimately your country and the world.
Yeah, but is the world a bad place? If you're living in Britain, the world's a pretty good place, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So if you want to make an impact on 10 million people, it should be 10 million people in deprived countries, not the Western world, I suppose.
That's an interesting perspective. I would disagree with it. I don't think that, because if someone is based in the UK, if you're based in the UK and you live in the UK, you've got your sphere of influence is more likely going to be people in your locality. It doesn't mean that you don't care about other people in the world, or that you don't help them, or you don't try to reach them. Absolutely. Yeah. But it's far easier for me to reach people in the UK than it is for me to reach people in Cambodia, because nobody in Cambodia knows who I am, and I don't have any sphere of influence there. Maybe I will someday in the future, and I'd love to go there and do some live performances or something. But to me, there's no cap on it. There's no cap on it. But I think that the point I guess I'm making is that a lot of people want to criticize others and the world when they haven't even fulfilled even a fraction.
Yeah, but I suppose the way, because I've been through a lot of ups and downs when I started this podcast and stuff, and I suppose the conclusion I came to is there's only one person I can really affect in the world, and that's myself. And so, you know, I go to bed every night and I do a little checklist. How did I conduct myself today? And I go to bed thinking that. And then I'm never perfect. There's always like, damn, why did I do that? And why did I do that? And why did I say this? And so it's that little checklist. And I think that's the only, the hardest lesson in life is to take responsibility for yourself. And I think it's the most important lesson. It's something that you talk about actually in your words on your podcast and your social media. But that is the sort of thing that I'm thinking life for me is about at the moment, not trying to influence everybody else, because I have no control over everybody else. And when I go onto social media, which we'll get onto in a minute, I just think everyone's got their biases.
Of course.
And they're just all looking at their biases, and they're all like, you've got a lot of people follow you at the moment because they like what you're saying. And you know, your confirmation bias for them is fantastic at the moment. So I wonder about trying to affect 10 million people, whether that is actually a great purpose rather than just saying, look, I'm a great man and that's all I'm going to do is just be a great man.
Well, that's the same thing. By being a great man, you will inspire other people.
A great human. I don't want to be sexist.
Well, I'm...
I don't want to start this because we'll have people listening who want to hate you. So let's start. And they'll want to hate me.
That's
funny.
Yeah, but I mean, by fulfilling your own potential and being the best you can be, physically, relationally, the way you treat other people, mentally, you know, educating yourself, all that stuff, that will have a knock-on impact on other people.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're going out there and, I mean, we're recording a podcast right now.
Yeah.
People are going to listen to this. This is going to have an impact on, I don't know how many people. And hopefully by this conversation we have, people will take away certain insights or certain motivation and whatnot. So that's there having an impact. It's hard to be a positive influence on other people if you yourself haven't remotely got any level of self-mastery. And it's a continuous journey. You know, I'm 32 years old. But I'd like to think until the day that I die, in some way, shape, or form, I like to improve a little bit every day.
Sorry to interrupt you, but what's really impressive about you is you've done everything yourself, haven't you? You self-release your records and your podcast and your book.
Yeah.
You've done it all yourself, which is amazing. And also what I love is the fact that you keep going, look at me, I'm getting better and better and better. Now, if you compare yourself, I mean, I've noticed you via social media and I wanted to get you on because I think you're going places and I'm interested in your brain and how you work. However, if you look at yourself compared to a Love Island contestant, you'll get 100,000 followers on Twitter or something. Sure. I don't know what you're on Instagram, but they're on millions, right? So in the great scheme of things, I look at that and go, well, I'm nothing. I've got 600,000 or 700,000 or something followers, but I'm nothing. Whereas you're going, no, I'm moving in the right direction. And I love that way you're just going, look at me. I'm really going places. Look at what I'm doing and look at how far I'm achieving. Was it hard to learn to do that? Have you always been like that?
I've always been like that. I actually had a conversation with my parents because I've got 4 older siblings, and I was curious speaking to them, and I kind of just asked them, how much have we changed since we were kids? Because I don't necessarily remember exactly what I was like as a kid when I was 2 or 3 or whatever, and my parents were basically said, yeah, you're the same. You've always been, either you do something or you don't. Extremely strong-willed, quite hard to influence, not someone who succumbs to peer pressure or anything like that. So that's just part of my personality. I think it's something I've honed over the years. And just like you said, you do your self-reflection every night. I try to be someone who's very self-aware and just who knows myself. I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. I know the things I'm interested in. I know the things I'm completely not interested in. And I think it's important to kind of take that inventory of yourself and to really think about, you know, what your values are, the things you stand for, the things you're willing to move on, the things you're not willing to move on, because it just gives you that structure and I guess confidence as well, just in terms of, okay, I know who I am. I'm not just going to go blindly with the herd on every single thing. I'm happy to think independently and to do and pursue what I want.
If Question Time phoned you up tomorrow and said, do you want to come on the panel, would you do it?
Yeah, I was on Extra Time not so long ago.
Were you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if they wanted me to do the main show, I'd be happy to.
So we got in contact with each other via DM on Twitter when I said, do you want to come on the podcast? And one of the conversations I had with you is I'm interested about what you say because in my career, I can't do that. You're aware that there's a lot of people like me.
Sure.
Now, I don't agree with everything you say. I don't disagree with it. I don't understand a lot of the stuff you say because you come from a different perspective from me. But it's easier in my life just to go, I'm not going to engage in it because the climate out there, the political landscape is such that if you do have an opinion, you're going to get attacked because we've just taken sides. And I think the clever place for people like me to be, and actually for a lot of people, is just to sit and watch it all play out at the moment because that's a nice place to be. But you're aware there's a lot of people like me out there because you've talked about it on your social media. Do you feel like you're becoming a spokesperson for people who can't speak out?
I do, yes. I tweeted something to that effect earlier on today because I receive a lot of DMs and emails from some pretty prominent people. I've had DMs from people in Hollywood, people who work in Silicon Valley, people who work at various news and media organizations, both in the UK and abroad, sports people, other musicians especially, who may share some, heterodox views on certain things that don't necessarily...
What does that mean, heterodox views?
Just not towing the party line, things that are considered different outside of their bubble or the sphere that they are in. So especially in creative industries, for example, if you're talking about politics, they lean, very, very heavily left. Same thing in academia. So if someone is more conservative-minded or more libertarian-minded even, or even just a centrist or even a sort of classical liberal, they feel like they may have certain views or opinions that go against what the majority opinion is. And so for that reason, and due to various peer pressures and fears of the mob that, you sort of alluded to earlier, a lot of people don't want to put those opinions out there. Whereas someone like myself, I don't have that fear. And I've done what I do independently for so long and on my own terms that I'm not 12 years in going to suddenly back down and try to appease people who haven't made me, and who, it's not, to me, it's not like, it's not even a hostile thing. Like, I really genuinely try not to ever attack or target people. I'm not interested in that. That's not my way of operating. It's more ideas. And ideas, there's things that I think are good ideas. There are things that I think are bad ideas. If I think a bad idea is becoming more popular or is gaining a lot of traction or is not being countered in any sort of public way and is gaining a stranglehold, then I think it's important for people to speak up and say, oh, wait, hang on, I don't think that's a
But do you think these ideas are getting a stranglehold? We need to talk about some of the ideas in a minute so people understand what we're talking about. But do you think they are, or do you think it's just the media is playing it out? We know American universities are. We know, but only a few, I think. I don't know how many, but only...
On the coasts.
On the coast,
Pacific Northwest, all the West Coast.
So they're trying to close down speech, aren't they? Free speech. And I know the media are very... the Twitter mob will get someone fired really quickly, and both sides of the Atlantic. But I think generally the general public out there are still feeling the same way about a lot of things.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just this burning furnace at the top where people are like really getting overexcited and people are losing their jobs. So for someone like me who's on television, I can't enter a conversation, even if I enter the conversation and change my mind. So recently, for instance, I changed my mind on reforming drug reform. I think drugs should be legalized. I 100% believe that now because I've interviewed enough people on my podcast to believe that. When I did the UK Elite podcast the other day, they said, you're the only celebrity we've ever got. And I said, that's because I don't have an agent. Okay. So if I had an agent, they'd say, what on earth are you doing? But it makes perfect sense to get rid of crime and the violence on the streets, and to make sure the kids are taking safe stuff, and even adults are taking safe stuff. And if you've got alcohol legal, why can't everything? There's so many different reasons behind it, but I believe in it, and I don't take drugs myself. So apart from alcohol, it's but there's no way I can join in a conversation, even for you to educate me. I can't. I'm going to today, but you. But I can't join in the conversation because I'll get closed down and fired by joining in a conversation, even if I'm ignorant on the fact. There's the problem.
That is the problem. So that's why I've become more vocal about this, because that so many, thousands, millions of people in a country that's supposed to be free shouldn't be having those concerns. I mean, it's one thing if somebody has some genuinely atrocious views and doesn't want to air them publicly because they know they're going to get chastised for it. But if it's, a view that's anywhere within the realm of what should be normal, or which lots of other people are holding, then to me it just seems crazy that so many people have that. There's this pressure, there's that sort of cloud hanging over people that they know, oh, I can't do that thing because either the company I work for, or the mob online, or some of my coworkers or whatever are going to target me for this thing. I'm someone who likes conversations. That's why we both run podcasts.
Yeah,
I enjoy conversation. There are no two people in the world who agree on everything. That doesn't exist, and I don't know why people sort of imagine that it does, because it's not. But the way that you understand the world and understand people and share different perspectives and see things from different angles is by having these conversations. That's how, sometimes I'll say something and that might change your mind. You might say something that changes my mind, and both people leave, or the whole group leaves, a little bit smarter, a little bit more empathetic in terms of being able to understand where different people are coming from, especially on, more contentious issues, or especially with things where people have, say, grown up in different parts of the world, or even different parts of the same.
Which you have.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, tell us about your background.
Yeah, sure. So I'm British and Nigerian. My family background is originally from Nigeria. I was born in the UK. I lived in Saudi Arabia for 19 years. I went to school there as a child before going to boarding school in the UK, followed by university in the UK. But during that whole period, I still lived in Saudi Arabia, so I was back and forth between the two countries all the time. So I've kind of grown up with quite a lot of exposure to those three different countries and cultures. So the UK, Nigeria, and Saudi Arabia, and they're all very different in their own ways. And then beyond that, I've traveled to 30-something different countries, performed in a lot of different places, and just know people from all over. So as much as I can, everybody has their blind spots, but I try to view things on quite a global level and to look at things from different angles. And I find with lots of conversations and issues, just based on my background and the way my mind works, I can often see a side or an angle to something that somebody else might just not have considered.
Are you scared though? Because the stuff you said, like I say, in a couple of minutes, we'll discuss a few of the things that you said, but it's quite strong opinions. You must get hatred from it because you are voicing stuff that is not the norm opinion on Twitter.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, to me, it's not true hatred, because I think to hate somebody, really, you have to know them. You'd have to actually have had an interaction with them. And I think there are probably people out there, not a lot of them, but I think there's a few people out there who might think they hate me, but I'm 90% sure if we actually met in real life, if they didn't just see one tweet and try to determine everything about who I am and what I believe based on a single tweet, I imagine if we just met in a normal place, they'd quite like me. So yeah, I've had, I get a lot of, if you want to call it love and hate, I get a lot of love for what I do. Far more than any kind of hate or criticism. Then I get some, which is just, fair. Then I get some fair criticism, which is like, okay, well, I don't agree with that. And that's fine. That's completely fine. That's when you can have a conversation. But then you get the people who just want to scream at you and shout at you and label you and give false accusations about you.
I was talking to my 17-year-old daughters about you today, saying I'm interviewing you, and they know about you because of your famous tweet, your bench press tweet, which a deadlift tweet, sorry, which I'll read in a minute. But you're actually being studied in a politics class.
That's insane.
Which is, I mean, that must feel pretty cool that you're actually being discussed by 17-year-old A-level students because of a tweet you made. The tweet was, I keep hearing about how biological men don't have any physical strength advantage over women in 2019. So watch me destroy the British women's deadlift record without trying. P.S. I identified as a woman whilst lifting the weight. Don't be a bigot. And then you did the laughing emoji. And then there's a video with you, if you want to look up Zubi on Twitter. There's a video of you, it's a very short video of you destroying the British women's deadlift record without trying. What made you want to do that? And the impact's been phenomenal.
The impact's been crazy. It's unbelievable that of all the things I've put out there over the past 12 years, that was the thing that gained more attention than anything else. So in terms of the way that video happened, so I already had that video on my phone. The video was already on my YouTube channel, and it had 50 views or something, because it was just a snippet from one of my training sessions. So I was in Derby at the time, doing some promotional stuff for my music. And I was actually on Twitter, and in one day, I saw 3 or 4 different stories about transgender women or men claiming to be women winning various competitions. So there were 2 stories out the US from a high school where there was a race, I don't know if it was the 200 meters, and the first and second place were both biological men. There was another story coming that I think was wrestling, and I think there was another story that was weightlifting. And this is something I've been seeing creeping up over the past couple of years. It's something that I brought up in private conversations with people, saying, look, if they let this happen, then you're going to start getting men identifying as women and competing in their sport. Because if you're going to make it that simple, then there's enough incentive for people to do that. And
financial incentive,
scholarship incentive, just competition incentive. I mean, professional athletes are competitive, right? I mean, that's the reason why you have problems with people using performance-enhancing drugs and stuff, because people want to get an edge. People want to win. So if you've got somebody who keeps coming in 7th or 8th place in the men's race or in the men's weightlifting or whatnot, and then they see they've got this opportunity to identify as a woman and become the champion, not everybody is going to do it, but some people will, because there's an incentive for them to do so. You're opening up that opportunity. So I saw all that, and then out of curiosity, I just Googled, I wonder what, in my weight class, I wonder what the women's British powerlifting records actually are. And I saw them, and I realized that I could smash, like, my best lifts are considerably higher than, I think the squat one was slightly higher than my max squat, but the bench press and deadlift ones were way below, considerably below what I'm able to do. And I'm not even a professional competitive athlete, which was sort of part of the point that I was making. So I saw all that, and then, I found the clip on my phone, and then I wrote that caption that you just read out, and I tweeted it, not necessarily not thinking that it was going to be sort of some international phenomenon that would get world news coverage and get me on all these interviews and have so many people know who I am and have people talking about me in their A-level classes. I just put it out there thinking, okay, my audience will... I mean, at the time I tweeted that, I had 16,000 followers. I now have 94,000.
Do you think it's sort of generally down to that?
Part of it.
But you did it. Did you do it for humor, or did you do it to actually make a point, or a bit of both?
A bit of both.
Yeah.
A bit of both. But that's what good humor does. Good humor, good satire. It touches on something that has got a grain of truth in it, or even a large truth in it, but it does it in a way that's clever.
If we do have a problem at the moment, let's say we do, let's say that there is a big problem with free speech and stuff. I think it's up to the arts, comedy,
Absolutely.
Music, film, TV. TV is tough because we've got so many gatekeepers. But I think it's up to the others to start saying, okay, we're going to change this. If you can get a few movies out there, a few comedies, and And music, I think that's where it all.
That's why I get scared when I see, not scared, but concerned when I see comedians not supporting free speech, or comedians trying to put.
They're attacking each other.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. I know a couple of professional comedians, and the amount of self-censorship that they do for stuff that is not remotely beyond the pale. That I hear that joke and they'll say, "Oh, not sure if we can do that." And I'm there like, "Are you serious? Like that's the best joke. Like, you've got to leave that in there because it's up to comedians."
Jeff Norcott's a right-wing comedian. Well, he's sort of conservative voting comedian, and I had him on this podcast. Really lovely guy, funny. But when I finished, I was talking to someone in my industry, TV industry, who said to me, "You do know that it's not just a joke. He actually does vote like conservative." I went, "Yeah, I know. It's like it's not a crime to vote conservative, but that's
like 50% of the rest of the country."
But that's often how it's perceived.
It's
it's
very
like
strange.
it is. Well, that's my industry.
Yeah.
As you said, it's quite left wing. I think it might be changing though. I don't know. I feel that people might be allowed to have an opinion soon. I'm not sure. Anyway, Joe Rogan picked up on it, and that's got to be arguably the biggest podcast in the world.
Yep. Be on there soon.
And you're and you're doing Dave Rubin as well, aren't you? So you're going out to America, and you've got yourself on Joe Rogan podcast. That is phenomenal.
Thank you.
But you're going on there bizarrely, not to talk about your music, probably. I mean, you'll hopefully.
I'm sure we'll touch on a lot of stuff.
I'm sure you will. But you're going to actually be discussing social issues with him. Are you ready for it?
I think so. Yeah.
Are you ready for the impact you're going to have?
I'm actually in the stage right now of trying to. I don't even know what to expect in a way. I'm kind of like, wow, I don't know how many people are going to hear that, and then out of that, how many people will end up liking me, hating me, loving me, disliking me. It's weird. Like I'm not worried about it, but I'm kind of bracing for impact a little. Because it's bizarre. It's been a bizarre year already, just because, like I said, I've been doing what I do for so long. And then in the past 6 months, I've gained more attention and followers and press and everything than in the past 6 years combined.
Are you confident in all your opinions? Mine changed rapidly when I go on. They change constantly because I'm on this podcast. I'm talking to people and they interest me, and then they make me think differently. And I read a lot of books, and I'm pretty much, I think we're sort of similar. We're examining things. Are you confident in all your opinions? Because when you go on there, there's a lot of millions of people that are going to listen to you.
Anything I have a strong opinion on, that strong opinion has come from somewhere.
Right.
So I don't have an opinion on most things. People
one of the ones
think I'm very opinionated, and I am in terms of certain things, but there's a lot of stuff where if you ask me, I'll be like, I don't know the best answer to everything.
Yeah, I listened to quite a bit of your podcast, Real Talk, and you've got strong opinions on there. So, that's good. Just for instance, I was looking at a couple of your tweets in recent days. You hate the term people of color.
I do.
That's contentious. Mm-hmm. Why do you hate it?
I hate it for multiple reasons. Firstly, I don't think you need a term for non-white people. That's very bizarre to me. The only people I can imagine who that term is useful for would be genuine, actual white supremacists who are trying to find some delineation between, inverted commas, their people and everybody else, or perhaps someone who's like very, very into far left identitarianism and ideas of intersectionality and white privilege, so they need to define who's white versus, the whole oppressor victim narrative. And if you don't fit into either of those two boxes, then you simply don't need a term for that. There's no term for people who are not black. There's no term for people who are not Asian. You don't need a term for people who are not white. I find it a very divisive term.
Why do you think it's come along into existence?
I think it's come along as a tool. As there are a lot of linguistic tools that people use to push their agendas and their ideas, and I find it a divisive term because it literally means everybody except white people. People say, "Oh, it's a term of inclusion," and I'm like, "How so? You've literally got a term which means everybody except white people. That's literally what it means. So why do I need that term? Why don't I just have people? Like, why do I need a separate term? And if you're going to have a separate term, you've already got, if someone wants to be specific and you want to talk about someone who's originally come from Africa or the Caribbean and they're black, you can say black. That's more descriptive. If someone is from a particular country, obviously you can say the particular country. If someone is from East Asia, you can say they're East Asian. If someone's a Pacific Islander, you can say they're a Pacific Islander. But there's just this general people of color thing that defines 90% of the world, just with the exception of that 10% of white people. I'm like, that's really, really bizarre. Why do you want that? It's divisive. Also, to me, it's completely ridiculous from the point of the English language that people find the term colored person or colored people deeply offensive and completely non-politically correct in 2019. But people of color is totally fine, and that's the politically correct. I'm like, they're the same thing. It would be like me finding the term, if you called me a strong person and I find that offensive, but you call me a person of strength, and that's fine. Like, doesn't make any sense. It literally doesn't make any sense. And again, it's just another divider. It's just another divider. I don't like to, the way I was raised, the way I've grown up, the way I view the world, it's not, people's skin color is irrelevant. Of course, it's something that I can see. Everybody can see it, but it's irrelevant to me. I don't care. I'm not.
But is that just because you've seen the world in a different way to the majority of the planet? Because you've been all around. You went to boarding school. You've been to Nigeria, the Saudi Arabia, Britain. I mean, you've seen it. You haven't just grown up in an estate in Manchester or something, or the Bronx or somewhere. I don't know.
True. I don't think that the majority of people. I think the majority of people. I don't know. I don't have data on this, but I would imagine the majority of people view the world more closely the way I do in that sense than looking at everything through a racial lens. And it didn't used to be like that. Even in the UK, say 10, 15 years ago, I'd never even heard that term then. But it seems like, I think there's this danger that people are, you've got a lot of people right now, and now it's coming from a more left-wing perspective generally, but you've got people who are almost trying to force everybody to view things by race again. And to me, that's a step backwards, right? It's like, I thought we had overcome this in the 90s, in the early thousands, in the early 2010s even. I don't remember people talking about white privilege this or that and all these new terms and buzzwords that are now becoming quite commonplace. And to me, that's not progression.
You don't believe in the term white privilege either, do you?
No, I can't stand it.
Why?
Because it's racist. How can I assume anything about you based on your skin color? That's what the term does. If someone looks at me and says, "Oh, you know, this person has white privilege, this person is oppressed," if someone says that I'm oppressed because I'm black, or I'm advantaged because I'm black, or what. If you start prejudging people based on these characteristics, then to me that is simply, it's just another form of racism. I also just don't think it's even accurate.
Why? Do you not think because I'm born white, I have more advantages over somebody in this country born black?
No, I don't believe that. I genuinely do not believe that. If you'd said that at certain times in history, I would say yes. Right now in 2019, I genuinely do not believe that, no. And someone will point out something like, "Oh, well, the majority of CEOs are white men." I'm like, yeah, well, the majority of the homeless people are white men too. So I live in Southampton. I see almost every homeless person is a white man. Like, I've never seen a black homeless person ever. I've never seen an Asian homeless person in that city. So how am I going to be walking around that and looking at those people saying, "Oh, this person still has some form of white privilege"? Like, it's just garbage. And again, it's divisive. It's not helpful. It's not a useful idea. It does more damage to me than it does. So I don't mean me personally, but in my view, it causes more disharmony and divisiveness than it does unity, because it causes people to keep viewing everything and everybody through this racial lens. And I was over that by the age of 2. You see what I mean? I'm not interested. To me, this is not, yes, we have different levels of melanin in our skin, but I'm not talking to you as a white man. I hope you're not talking to me like, "Oh, as a black," you're talking to Zubi. You're talking to the ideas and whatnot. Like, your skin is it's an organ. It's an organ that covers you. Like, as soon as you, below that, it's like, Same thing.
But do you think that's what the view of the country is, or do you think the it's interesting actually. You know what? Who's it? Prince Harry yesterday. He did an interview and he said we need to speak frankly about racism in Britain and how unconscious bias often passed down from generation to generation. He's saying that we're all sort of unconsciously racist, I suppose, by that. Do you agree with?
I don't know.
No,
I don't. I mean, and I wouldn't want to. You see what I mean? Like I very much believe that one of the things about the world, and this goes for a lot of stuff, is that what people believe to be true kind of is. So if you walk around viewing everything through the lens of race, or through the lens of sex, or through the lens of things are great, or through the lens of things are bad, generally you'll find evidence to confirm your biases. Okay? So somebody who thinks that the UK or America is a deeply racist place, or a deeply misogynistic place, or a deeply homophobic place, or whatnot, they've attuned their brain, and I don't know what the exact psychology of it is, but they've sort of attuned their brain to see things everywhere, even where they may not exist. So that could be a black person who has this worldview, and they get on a bus, and maybe the bus driver's having a bad day, and they give them a bit of a, I mean, look, or something, or they give them their change, and they don't like the way they give them the change, right? They will think of that as some kind of racial microaggression, right? They won't view it. If that happens to me, I think, oh, that guy was a bit of a whatever, or oh, he's not having a good day, or whatnot. I won't think, oh, that happened to me because I'm black, and the same thing would not have happened to a white person, right? You get people who are like, oh, well, that wouldn't have happened to, and I'm like, how do you know that? Did you run an experiment and do a control with different groups and see, but it happens all the time. It happens all the time. And someone will say, oh, that wouldn't have happened if it was that person. I'm like, how do you even know that? You can't say that as a fact because you haven't seen the flip side. And oftentimes when you see the flip side, you can find plenty of cases where the thing has happened to another type of person. I mean, it's the same thing with the way certain feminists view the world, and they view everything as the problem of men, and they see male supremacy everywhere, and they see the patriarchy everywhere, and they find everything offensive, and they're constantly seeing things that other people are not even seeing, or if they're seeing, they're not putting it down to the same cause or the same reason. It's the same thing like if you have someone who's say you've got someone who's in a very depressive mind state, okay, and they see everything, they sort of see the downside of everything. There's lots of negativity in the world.
Yeah,
there's a lot of negativity in the world. So if you focus on it,
do you think we've created a victim culture then?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you think it's easier to get through life as a victim?
Oh no, it's harder.
You think it's harder?
It's harder to get through life, certainly if you're trying to be successful.
Have you ever come across David Goggins?
Yes.
I love that guy. I watch his Instagram videos all the time. He swears a lot. Be careful if you go on there. But he's like, fucking get off your ass. You've got one chance. You've got one life. Doesn't matter who you are. Yeah. Whenever I need a bit of inspiration,
yeah,
I tune into Goggins because that guy's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Yeah. But what's the reaction like? Just listening to that conversation you're having there with me. I mean, what you're saying all makes sense to me, but it's a conversation. But that must surely upset people. As soon as you put those tweets out there, there is no such thing as white privilege. As soon as you do that, wow, you are opening a world of pain on yourself there, aren't you? Good. Okay.
Good.
All right. What is the reaction like, though? Is it like this avalanche of people going, I love you for saying that, and then an avalanche of people going, I can't stand you for it?
My mentions are constantly, oh gosh, I used to be able to manage my Twitter mentions quite well, but as it grows, it's kind of become almost a full-time job to try to get back to everybody. So it's good having a podcast as well and having these conversations because, Twitter only allows bite-size bits of what I'm saying. So if someone wants to know more, like that question you asked me, like, why do you dislike the term people of color? Like I can say that and I can explain it a little bit, but it's helpful to expand on it and go into it in a little bit more detail of my thinking and where I'm coming from
Right.
in that regard. Because other time, what happens online especially is people just jump to conclusions. So if you have an opinion on something, someone will say, oh, you believe this because of that, or you believe, and 80% of the time they're completely wrong, right? I always have people ascribing incorrect motives to things I'm saying, and there's a lot of people out there who believe I believe things that I don't, and I've never expressed, but they've just connected very basic dots in their head and thought, oh, well, he disagrees with me on this, so he must be that. Oh, he questions some aspects of modern day feminism, so he must hate women. It's like, what? You know, that's a ridiculous.
Why are you doing it though? Because when you go to press the button, you know it's gonna be contentious. What,
Yeah.
Is there ever a second thought? Do I really want to do this one?
Occasionally, yeah. I have deleted. There's stuff that I write and delete, as in that doesn't get posted, because there is some stuff that there are some views I have which I'm not even going to put that one out there because the world's not ready yet.
Okay,
the world's not ready yet. But for the most part, I post things that I know might be controversial or contentious to some people, but I don't post things specifically to be controversial.
Yeah.
So I don't consider myself like a provocateur or something like that. It's like, this is my belief. This is what I think is true. This is what I think is correct.
And do you think it's important to put your voice out there on it?
I do, yes, because the people who are pushing a lot of the ideas that I don't like, such as white privilege, they're not being quiet. Okay? They're not being quiet. The people who are pushing lots of these radical ideas, and some which I think are very directly destructive for society and people's brains and people's success, and instilling this victimhood complex, it's important to have other voices on the other side that are like, wait, hang on, that's not the right way to view the world. So as long as those people are going to be very, very vocal, it's important to have people to challenge and to question it and to tell people, wait, hang on, that's not a good idea.
Do you think we can get to end up in a place where 60% of the medals in the Olympics go to? I'm searching for the right term here, but
that's where we are.
But people who were biological men who were now what's the word I'm looking for?
Transgender women identifying as women.
Do you think that'll end up as the case?
Well, if they keep going the way they are, then it's inevitable. If people do not push back on it, this is exactly what I'm saying. The reason it's gotten this far is because enough people didn't push back on it. People stayed quiet, people stayed silent, and that's how any bad idea takes hold. It doesn't matter what it is, right? If people don't speak out and say, oh no, wait, hang on, this is not a good idea. You know, it's good to have ideas are normally, it's good to have lots of different ideas out there, but some of them are not good.
I think another problem with ideas is they're becoming global. I mean, my daughters talk to me constantly about American politics. I'm like, we don't live in America, and I interviewed June Sapong on this podcast, and she wrote a book called Diversity, and I read it, and it's kind of an amazing book she did. Jesus Christ, the work she put into that was phenomenal. But the takeaway from it to me was actually Britain's quite a good country. We're quite liberal and we're quite multiracial. America's a bit crap still. We're a lot better than they are off in the way
It depends on what factor, I guess, you're looking at.
Well, let's talk about racism. They're a lot more racist according to the stats in her book and stuff. Are you aware of? Do you think that, or do you think America doesn't have racism too?
Everywhere has racism. I've never and never would say that racism doesn't exist. I'd never say that sexism doesn't exist. I'd never say homophobia. Of course, all these things exist.
All right.
But I think there's a difference between saying they exist and saying that the overall society is racist. Like, those are very big different. Those are very different statements.
All right.
Right? So
yeah. Okay.
I don't think the UK is a racist country. Right.
Okay.
Some people will come out outright and say that Britain is a racist country.
Right.
I would say no, absolutely not.
Would you say America was?
No.
What do you think of Trump then when he goes? I mean, because that was
I would vote for him.
You would?
Yes.
Why?
Happily.
But
if I were American, I wouldn't.
What about when he said the other day, you can go back to your own country? Like, we all know that that's a terrible racist stance to take.
I would disagree. In the context he said it, I would disagree.
But he knows the connotations of that term, because we had it over here back in the 70s.
I think the guy is. I don't think the guy is certainly insensitive, and he's not PC, and he publicly attacks people who publicly attack him, which people don't necessarily expect from a president. But I think it's good and it's refreshing. I don't agree with everything the man says, but looking at who his opposition is, there are, out of those 20 or so Democrat candidates, none of them, I wouldn't vote for any of them over him. And I'm not afraid to say that.
But does that just make it a bad place for politics in America?
Well, it might be. I mean, I think that the politicians are almost a reflection of the people and the wider society in a way. So if you've got 20-something different candidates and you don't like any of them, or you feel that none of them, then maybe there's something deeper.
But you did hear about that interview, that speech he made where he's talking about where America fought off the Britons.
I don't think I heard this.
All right, and he said it was 1700 or something. I don't know my dates on American history, but he said our troops went and we pushed back the British and we took over their airports. And you're like going, you're like going, Jesus, mate, you're like. Even I wouldn't do that, and I'm a Tim Pot TV presenter.
The way I look at Trump is you've got two categories of people, in a way. You have people who focus on what he says, and you've got people who focus on what he does. I don't really care what he says, to be honest.
But we've arrived in this place where reality isn't reality anymore, is it? It's just truth isn't truth, reality isn't reality. It's just everything. Everyone's just jumping on sound bites galore. I mean, the virtue signaling from celebrity on Twitter is off the scale.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
The confirmation bias is ridiculous. I mean, I'm sort of unlike you, but I have to really. I'm sort of withdrawing more and more, going, oh God, do I want to be in there?
Don't blame you at all.
Because I've got to go, right, here we go. I've got a virtue signal about everything. I've got to say how I met everyone who's died and how I loved them and they were all great. And I've got every single atrocity in the world. I've got to say my thoughts and prayers for them and everything. Or I just pull out and go, shit, you lot get on with it. And
it can be tiring knowing when to engage and when to disengage. It's tricky, and sometimes it sucks you in. I can get sucked into Twitter and spend hours and hours just on there. I mean, Twitter is good for my business though, because I mean, I do business on there, and lots of my followers buy and support what I do on there. But it's tricky because sometimes you feel like you don't want to become like a news reporter if that's not your actual job.
Yeah, is it taken over what you're doing though? Because it's become so big. The stuff you're saying, I'm fascinated by reading your tweets and the way you're engaging with people and the way you're not scared either, and you're not standing down. I like all that, and you've got opinions. But obviously, your career is as an artist, a musician. You do rap, and which is, how did you get there in the first place? Because you were at Oxford studying computer science or something, weren't you?
Okay, how did I get into music?
Yeah,
so. I started listening to hip hop a lot when I was in my early teens. So I was just a fan, listened to lots of different rappers all the way through boarding school, university. When I got to university, though, in my first year, I wrote my first lyrics when I was stuck in an airport for about 24 hours. I was flying to Nigeria via Paris. I was stuck in Paris airport for a while by myself. I just had my MP3 player, pen and paper, and I just started jotting down some lyrics. And I kept doing that during that 4-week period that I was out in Nigeria, and just kind of sharing stuff with my family members and showing my parents, hey, what do you think of this? And kind of rapping it to them and whatnot. And they were like, yeah, you're pretty good, like keep going. Then I got back to university. One of my friends, Chris, had a recording set up in his bedroom, and I started downloading some beats from the internet and writing songs and going in there and recording them with him. After I'd been rapping for about 8 months, I actually released my first album, Commercial Underground. So that was when I was in my second year of university, and that did well. It was a completely independent release, self-funded, self-promoted, self-sold. I ended up selling several thousand copies of it, and that was the point where the sort of light bulb went off, like, oh, well, if people are willing to buy my music and come to my gigs, then this is something that I could potentially do as more of a career. So after I graduated, I already had a job lined up in London by the time I graduated, but I deferred it for 1 year. I took a year out, did my music full-time for 1 year, and released my second album, The Unknown Celebrity, traveled around the UK, pushing that, promoting that, and then I moved to London, started working full-time whilst doing my music stuff on the side. And then in 2011, beginning of the year, I made a mental decision that by the end of 2011, I was going to be a full-time musician. And so I left my job in November 2011, and I've been doing my stuff full-time independently ever since.
Why haven't you got a record deal? Do you not want one?
Why would I want one?
Won't they push you harder? their expertise?
They could, but doesn't work out for most people. And I don't know what kind of record deal. I don't know what kind of record company would properly. I don't even know what record label I'd want to be signed by these days. Going back 20 years ago, I could have, named some. Oh, I'd love to be signed by Def Jam or Loud or whatever. But now, it's not. It doesn't. It's just it. Funnily enough, it's. I was independent. Independent is being. Sorry, being independent now in the music world is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Right. I was independent way before it was cool. Like when I started doing music, everyone was still trying to get a record deal. And I just thought, you know what? If I have a fan base, like fans are the lifeblood of everything. If you've got people who are willing to support what you do and go to your gigs and buy your merchandise and buy your music, then it doesn't matter whether you're signed, unsigned, independent, major, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's all about fans. It's all about fans. You could be you've got artists who are signed to a major who don't have a fraction of the fan base that I do. And you've got people who are independent who have got way bigger fan bases than I do. So there's a lot that can be done. I mean, especially in this day and age, it's even more so now. You don't need a label. And people don't understand how record deals work as well. I mean, if you look at how record deals work, it's not hard to understand why an artist would want to stay independent. I mean, they take off of record sales, which are hard to get now in the first place anyway. The cut they normally take is between 88 and 92%.
Yeah, but though you become part of the system, you just to play devil's advocate with you become part of the system. You end up saying,
I want to be part of the system.
But if you,
I really don't.
Yeah, but you want to hit 10 million people. You want to have a positive impact on 10 million people. Independent, you might be able to hit, I don't know, 1 million, and then you sign to a label. What they do is they have the way into the radio stations. I don't know how much impact you're making on those, because I'm not listening to those stations really at the moment. I'm listening to a lot of podcasts instead. And then you get a plugger who goes, I do a show on Sunday called Sunday Brunch, I don't know if you know, and we have bands on there, and then you get the chance there, and then you get the industry go, can we use his track on Love Island, or and that gets you impact and hits, and it'll get you to the 10 million people that you want to have an impact on quicker. Maybe not financially.
It could, but for every artist or band that it works out for, there's another 8, 9, 10 that got signed and it didn't work out, and then they're tied into their.
It's hard work doing your own. We do this podcast on our own, and everybody else has got production companies around them. We haven't at the moment, and it's like it's tough for us. I mean, we've got to make our own tea, and but Simon, Mark, and I often we're sitting there and we're going, the bloody admin on this is driving us nuts, because it's just organising you coming on here. It's just effort, And,
of course.
And then I've got to research all your work and do it all. I mean, I don't mind doing that. I love doing that, but
I'm sure it has benefits though too, right?
Being on our own, I suppose so.
I'm assuming. I don't know. In the world of podcasting, I guess I don't know what podcasting sort of companies. I don't really know all the ins and outs of what they do and what they don't do. Well, you're doing your
own, aren't you? So.
Yeah.
Yours is good, by the way. I really like yours.
Oh, thank you.
What is the relevance of how relevant is hip hop now? Because it used to be absolutely massive, as in making social commentary, especially in the States and over here as well, and having a political voice. Is it still the same?
In terms of the political voice, I'd say it's probably diminished. In terms of the overall popularity of all the different forms of hip hop, it's probably more popular than it's ever been in terms of listenership on a national and global level. I think more people are listening to hip hop in different forms now than ever, whether that's grime. Grime is a form of hip hop, whether it's grime, whether it's drill, whether it's you've got all these different forms in different countries too. I mean, you've got every single country has its own hip hop scene, and it's fascinating actually. Like any country I go to.
So does the hip hop scene go left? I mean, Stormzy came out for Jeremy Corbyn, didn't he? The hip hop world. It's certainly in the UK it does. What about America?
Even in America, I think I think quite a lot of rappers are secret Republicans, to be honest with you.
Why?
Why? Because Republicans actually support some of the values and ideas in hip hop a lot more than what the Democrats do, as far as I'm concerned.
When you're writing your music, has the impact of what you've been doing on social media crossed over into your music?
It's going to start to.
So you got to start talking about.
To start to,
okay.
Yeah. I look forward to writing my next couple of songs because I think I know what I need to put out there, and I think that's going to start going into the music more of that social commentary, the sort of stuff I put on Twitter. Some of that will start coming into the music a little bit more now.
Would you say you're right wing? Are you conservative?
That's a good question. I've got a lyric on Perseverance where I say, I am not left wing, I am not right wing. I just know all these things I know.
Right. Because that's how I feel. I feel I don't sit on anything. I feel I just sit looking at it all.
It's a funny thing, you know. It's again, it's a bit of a weird, it's a bit of a weird binary because political views are way more nuanced than that. You know, trying to put it down to a direction is seems very silly, right?
It does feel to me like you're choosing your football team sometimes. It seems a bit bizarre.
Yeah, and even with football teams, you've got more than two.
Yeah,
right? That's the thing. You've got more.
It's true, but it seems like it seems in this country a lot of people say that's my team. I'm going to stay with them forever, and it's like, hold on, no. What if the person you're supporting is like? I mean, if you're far left and Blair comes the leader of your party, he's moved you into the centre, and it's like, are you sure you want to carry on supporting that bloke? You know, it's like whatever it is you're into. You know,
I'm certainly not. I'm certainly not tied to any party. My views, I mean, if I had to use the spectrum that people use, I would probably say I'm a center-right libertarian.
Okay.
Right? If I had to summarize it in basic terminology that people can put on a map, right? But it also depends firstly, it depends issue to issue, right? I have different views on different issues. Some of them I have very strong views on. Some of them I don't know what the best answer is my view. I can understand both sides. I don't know what the best one is. And then, you know, I think it also depends again on what sort of scale you're looking at. So again, coming back to what we were saying about me growing up and being exposed to different cultures, right? Mm-hmm. So by Saudi Arabia standards, I'm very socially liberal.
Really?
Okay. By the UK standards, I might be considered quite socially conservative, right? By Nigeria standards, I'm also probably relatively liberal, right? So I would absolutely not call myself a liberal in the UK sense or in the American, certainly not in the American sense, far from it. But so in America, I'd absolutely be a Republican, no question. But I align probably more with Republicans than I do, say, with like the Conservative Party, to be honest with you.
Right.
But it depends on issue to issue, and you know, there's some stuff that I think is super important, which will override a lot of the other things, even if I don't necessarily agree with some other things. But it's a tricky one.
Are you worried that the alt-right, the white supremacists, all that lot all love you and hold you up as one of their poster boys because you're saying things that they like to hear?
I don't think a white supremacist would hold me up as any kind of poster boy.
But don't they do that with Candice Owens? Don't they all jump on and love her because she's saying stuff
I've never seen a white supremacist endorse Candice Owens. I don't think that.
The alt-right, then they're going, yeah, we love her because she's. Are you worried about being a pin-up for them?
Who even are those people?
I don't know.
This is the thing. It's like there's this sort of boogeyman of, you know, the alt-right, and it's like when you ask people who, it's like, okay, like who are you talking about? And
all right,
no one can really.
Let's say the racists then. Let's just
okay.
do that. So racist people go, we like him because he's saying there's no racism. Let's stick with him. And we like him because he's saying that we hate the term people of color. We like him. Are you worried that they're going to start supporting you?
No, because I make it very clear that I oppose racism, period. I oppose identitarianism. I don't care if it's left wing or right wing. People say, you know, and there's a lot of left-wing identitarianism right now. It's being pushed harder than it is being pushed from the right, as far as I can see. So, and most of the racism I encounter is from left-wing people. I've almost never, ever, ever, literally maybe can count on one hand the amount of racist attacks I've received from people who are more aligned with the right, and I've got hundreds from the side of tolerance and compassion. So I don't have any sort of...
Okay, why has that happened?
Because there's a lot of racists on the left wing, and people don't want to say that or accept it.
But they're tolerant.
No, they're not.
But that's what the left stands for.
No, but it doesn't. This is the thing. This is like that's the branding. That's people's general conception. But I've been out there enough to say that no, that's not true. And this is, and you know, it's there's good and bad people on any side of anything. Like I don't really like to do the left, the right thing, because again, it's dividing people up in a way that I don't think
it's true. Yeah,
is necessary, because
people,
because it's like, you know, you'll get some people who will be like, oh, Zuby is right wing, so I don't like him now. I mean, I once saw a tweet saying one of the funniest tweets I ever read about me, it's funny on so many different levels, was someone wrote, Zuby pretends to be about love, peace, and unity, but he's actually a closet conservative.
Oh, okay. So you can't be love here if you're conservative.
So that's obviously assuming that everyone conservative is, you know, a bad person, and then the idea that I'm a closet conservative is also kind of amusing. And the whole thing was just, I read it, I was just like, geez, is this really, is this where we are? It would be like, yeah, that person pretends to be nice, but they're actually a liberal.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what do you mean? Like, you've got good people. You've got people who are cool, and people anyone who I can have a conversation with, anyone who's reasonable. Like, there are people who I've got friends who I vehemently disagree with on certain issues, but I love them. They love me.
See, that's it. And also, I think the most important thing is to see what someone's view is, and then go, how did they get there? Let's talk to them.
And it's interesting.
Why are they? Not go, oh, God, what an idiot you are. The one I really hate on the moment is when everyone jumps on when something happens, and it's like, fuck Trump, fuck Boris, fuck Corbyn, fuck whoever. It's like, oh, come on, think of something more intelligent to say than just swearing at someone. You know, you're supposed to be an intellectual, and that's literally all you can do is tell me that you don't like them with a profanity. It's just, I just think that's used, but I think that's all the virtue signaling, isn't it? It's like, look what side I'm on.
It's just signaling to the tribe.
Yeah,
that's all it is. It's signaling to the tribe.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like people putting pronouns in their Twitter bios and putting certain hashtags in their bios. Is just saying, hey, look, I'm a good person, right? You know, this is, you know, and then, I mean, you can have virtue signaling on the other side. You got the people who are, you know, hashtag MAGA, hashtag patriot, hashtag, you know, support the troops.
Everyone's virtue signaling everything.
So,
I'm a vegan. I'm a meat eater. I'm a carnivore. I'm this. I'm that. It's like, it's a non-stop, massive sort of virtue signal. That's what social media has become. You're different in it. You're willing to stand up and have an opinion. I'm conscious of time. I don't want to turn it into a 3-hour Joe Rogan extravaganza. Are you ready for that?
I'm ready.
Are you ready for 3 hours worth of talking? I need to make
sure I eat well beforehand.
Hey, what are you going to do? Because Joe Rogan likes to get people stoned. Are you going to go in there and...
I don't do drugs. I don't smoke anything. I've never smoked anything.
He's going to be disappointed.
Yeah,
He'll be going, here's an edible.
I'm straight edge. I don't even drink alcohol.
Don't you?
No.
Thank God I didn't buy you wine then.
Yeah, I'm straight edge.
Which is what I want to get onto. But you'll hold his Elon Musk flamethrower that he always has people.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I'm not opposed to that.
When are you doing it, by the way, the Joe Rogan one?
Early September.
Okay, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, 5th of September we are recording.
Are you nervous about it at all? Because it's going to be huge for you, that.
Not really. I feel like things have kind of been building up for it. I mean, a couple of years ago, you know, even last year, because I've been listening to a show for a while and, you know, watching the clips on YouTube and stuff, and I was like, I'm going to be on that eventually. You know, I knew that. I was like, I don't know when, I don't know what'll be the thing, I don't know what we'll discuss, I don't know if it'll be in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, but I will be. If he keeps it going, I'll be on that podcast.
Do you do jiu-jitsu?
No, I don't.
No, you see, he'll get you into that. That's what he talks about a lot, isn't it? Maybe. Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Now, he'll love to talk about the fact that men are entering women's sports. And he'll talk about that when he'll talk about how someone's going to get hurt soon.
It's already happened.
Has it?
Mm-hmm. In MMA. Yeah, there was a woman who got her skull fractured and a broken eye socket. From the first, there's a fighter called Fallon Fox who was competed as a man for over 10 years, I believe, in MMA, and identified and transitioned, let's say, to a woman and had their first fight and absolutely crushed their opponent. That was a couple of years ago now. That was one of the things that kind of put it a bit more on the radar okay, this is something that, so I know in the UFC they've drawn a hard line, like this is not allowed, because after that they just said no, like we're not gonna, we don't. It's
going to be tough for women's sport though, because they're going to have to keep measuring testosterone levels, aren't they? And they're going to have to keep juggling that and working out what they're going to do.
It's not even a difficult thing to solve. Okay, if the real thing was, it's ideologically driven, because people are saying it's about inclusivity and fairness, and it's not. It's about ideology. It's about trying to get people to swallow this idea that a man can be a woman can be a man, gender's completely fluid. That's the goal. Because if it were just about inclusivity and fairness, then there's a really simple solution. There's two. You could either have a trans athlete division, or you could just make the male categories open. I believe a lot of them already are. Most male sports are not actually male sports. They're open, right? There's no rules that saying that a woman can't play in the NBA.
Okay.
There's no rules saying that a woman can't play in the MLB or be in the NHL hockey league.
I think there is in football over here.
In football here, over there, there might be. But in most of them, the men's, certainly in the big ones I know in the US, there's no rule saying that it's only men. Okay. It's just that if you're going to take all the best American football players in the US, for obvious reasons, they're all going to be men. You're not going to have a woman in there who can compete. So if it were just about wanting everybody to be able to compete, then you just say, okay, well, this is the open category. And then, the whole point of professional sports is you're seeing the best of the best.
Yeah.
And if you literally have, if you remove if you completely remove the sex split between men and women, then men are going to dominate everything. So the reason why you have female sports is because you want to let women play sports and flourish, and you want to see the best women playing each other as well, not just all the best men. So that's the original reason why you have that split. So, it makes sense. So if you were to just have the whole thing open, then, it's important that women's sport is protected in that regard, because over time, there are real physical differences.
When Martina Navratilova came out,
she got hammered.
And yet she was so huge for lesbian athletes back in the day, and for equality, and also for women's tennis. Didn't she with Billie Jean King all the.
In a weird way, in a bizarre way, it's terrible, but in a bizarre way, it's kind of good, because sometimes things have to run their course a little bit. Sometimes things just have to happen for people to finally get the point, and to get the picture. So I don't want any women being physically hurt. I don't want women being pushed out of their sports or anything like that. But it's like, okay, maybe what needs to happen is for a whole bunch of men to identify as women, if they need to suppress their testosterone for 1 year or whatever it is, and go and compete with these women and blow them out of the water. If that's what it takes to get over this ridiculous idea that there's no difference between men and women, then it might have to go to that. I don't think it should have to, but I just think people have been so caught up in the ideology and this sort of faux political correctness that they don't just want to say the truth, right? There's people afraid to say exactly what I just said because they don't want to, that might, be taken the wrong way, or this might be.
What's so bloody hard for me is the terminology.
It's tricky.
It's like even then, when I was talking about Martina Navratilova, I was thinking lesbian. Can I say the word lesbian? Can I say it? Because I have to question every word now. Yeah. And often on my show, and if we're interviewing someone with a disability or something, I get given the words I'm allowed to use. Okay. And if you deviate from those, rather than someone going, Timmy used the wrong word for what we're at, it's like, God, I can't believe he's setting the movement back for this. Like, what the hell? Yeah. I'm really not trying to be offensive to anyone by using a word. It's just like, it's this constant thing which is quite hard for us all. Now, listen, I want to move on to
speech police.
I want to move on to fitness, because you got your book out. You've sent it to me, and I'm just desperately looking for the name of it again. Remind me what it's called.
No worries. It's called Strong Advice, Zubi's Guide to Fitness for Everybody.
I've read it. Very good.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it a lot. It's simplicity, isn't it, really? And I think that's what you set out to do. It's like, this is not hard. What will you tell us? What's the concept of the book?
Yeah, sure. So the concept of the book is about how anybody and everybody, any age, any sex, you can improve, take control of your body and improve your fitness, get stronger, improve your physique, look better, feel better, be healthier, build muscles, burn fat, lose weight, gain weight, whatever your goal is. It basically lays out in a very simple way all of the most important points and the most important things you need to know when it comes to mindset and motivation, when it comes to nutrition, and when it comes to training and how you program your training, what you do when you're in the gym. Because that's what matters. A lot of people go to the gym, but they don't really train. They kind of go to the gym and hop on this and hop on that, but there's not really any structure to it in terms of their nutrition. They don't know, most people don't even know how many calories they eat in a day. And, someone will tell me they want to lose weight. And I'm like, okay, well, how many calories do you eat? How many calories do you need to maintain your current weight? And almost nobody can answer that question. And it's like, ooh, okay, that's a big problem because that's the most important thing to know because you then need to reduce it to...
If someone's, I don't want you to go, if you want to do the calculation, you can find it online or get Zuby's book. But how would you calculate how many calories you're eating a day? That's a lot of scales and measuring and stuff like that. It's complicated.
Yeah, to calculate how many you're currently eating, then you just need to read the nutrition labels. And if you want to do it perfectly accurately, you'd have to weigh your portions out and see how many calories are in each meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner. But if you've got certain foods that you eat a lot, then a very simple thing you can do is just note down or just memorize how many calories are in that particular thing. So I have a lot of sort of go-to meals. So I have certain meals where I'm like, okay, that's 1,000 calories, that's 800, that's 1,000. And I just know it approximately anyway. You might be over 100, under 100 here and there. If I want to be really accurate, I'll just weigh it all again. But it's just that. So if someone's maintaining their weight at the moment and then they just keep a food log for say 3 or 4 days and track how many calories they're consuming both through eating and drinking, and they know, okay, cool, I'm eating 2,600 calories a day and that's maintaining my weight, then you know that if you want to lose weight, you can drop it to 2,300 and maintain that, and you'll lose weight. Similarly, if you wanted to gain, you could up it to 2,900, 3,000, and you'll gain weight. It's very simple.
It's a simple book as well because it doesn't take long to read.
No.
It just gives you the basics and tells you actually how to do it, which is great. The one thing I will pick up on though is something you said on your Twitter not so long ago about you reckon you'll still be able to maintain exactly your weight and everything else when you get older, and you said you're not going to have a problem with it. Well, I'm older, and I can tell you, your body does change.
Oh, of course it's going to change.
It does change. It's so much harder.
Of course it's going to change, yeah.
See, I have to look at a cake and I put weight on. I mean, it doesn't even have to go in my mouth. When I was a kid, I could eat like 6 meals a day. Just absolutely fell off me. I could do whatever I want. Yeah. I mean, I did play a lot of sport when I was a kid, but...
I've never been someone who's I've never been slim a day in my life.
Haven't you?
No. I used to be overweight.
Did you?
Yeah. No, I was more of a fat kid. That's what got me going to the gym in the first place. So I'm not someone who's, I don't think I have the genes in my family. There's no one in my family who's like skinny. It's,
right.
No.
Like, and do you love it? Do you love going to the gym?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
so do
I. I like
17 years now.
Is that all you do, the fitness stuff? You do, obviously you do cardio because it's in your book. You talk about the importance of doing a little bit of cardio, but it's not a lot. I mean, for anybody who's getting scared, just how many sessions would you say you need to do a week?
In the gym?
Yeah, to do the stuff. In hours,
say 3 to 5. Oh, hours. Yeah, 3 to 5 even.
3 to 5
3
hours.
To 5. Yeah. Probably 3 to 4 if you're a beginner. 3 good hours. 3 good hours a week if you're doing full body workouts. Maybe 4. That's a lot. That's plenty.
Is it a paper book or just on a?
Okay.
Download?
So right now it's an ebook. So the ebook is available from my website, teamzuby.com.
Zuby's Z-U-B-Y, by the way.
Z-U-B-Y, yeah. I'm doing the paperback pre-orders right now as we're recording, which are going extremely well. The first batch sold out in 7 hours, and the next batch will probably sell out today. So I just put that out 3 days ago.
In 5 years' time, 10 years' time, when I sit you down to do the podcast again, actually I'll probably do it before then. But how would you have made your money? Music, fitness, political commentator.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to guess now. It'll be a combination of.
I don't want a combination. Which one are you going for?
Oh no.
I know you're gonna.
I already have multiple streams.
I know you have, but which one did you think you're gonna do it?
Gosh, wow. Ideally, music.
All right.
Music is still my first love. There's no question about that.
Do you think you can get into politics one day?
I won't count it out. It's not in the next 10 years, but after that, I wouldn't count it out.
Career politicians will hate you.
If the world needs me.
They'll hate you. They'll just they'll all gang up and bully you. Whatever side career politicians will hate you.
It's about the people.
I know, but they'll come in and they'll try and destroy you with every means because you're coming in at it from a different angle. They will. I promise you. That's the way it works.
It's okay.
The little dealings I've had with politics, it's just a power game. It's a mad power game, and we can see what's happened at the Conservative Party with all their Eton people constantly on the conveyor belt. Right, there's questions to ask everybody, so I'm going to ask the same for you. What one piece of advice would you like to give our listeners that has been invaluable to your life?
Go to the gym.
Simple as that. keeps you sane.
It does. Good Keystone habit.
Okay. What's the biggest mistake you've made?
Not buying Bitcoin when I first heard about it.
We all say that.
I heard about it pretty early, though.
Did you?
I'm a computer science graduate. Yeah.
Why aren't you doing something with that?
Because I'd rather be doing what I'm doing.
Right. Do you not think that would be a good thing to do as well, though?
Financially, sure. But in terms of the gifts I've been given, no.
Okay. And you just passed up on Bitcoin, did you?
I didn't bother researching it properly until 2017, but I first heard about it several years before that. But I thought it was just some thing. I thought it was like an in-game currency or something like that, or just something like PayPal, whatever. I didn't properly look into it. So.
And do you think that cryptocurrency has legs?
Yeah, I'm a huge cryptocurrency advocate.
Are you?
Yeah.
What do you think it'll be used for? AI? Do you think they'll use it? Is that what it's going to be?
I think it'll. Well. I think so. Bitcoin specifically, I think will be used already is being used as some form of digital gold or digital savings. I mean, Bitcoin makes more sense to me than any other currency in the world. It's got its flaws in terms of speed, but I think things are still at a very early stage, so that will eventually be taken care of. I think its best value proposition is as a savings and investment currency rather than a day-to-day one. I think there are other cryptos that might be used for other things. So whether that's AI, whether that's real estate, whether that's tracking products, there's lots of uses of blockchain technology. Not all of them are going to be typical currencies per se. I think there'll be a couple that will serve that purpose, but it'll take a while. I think things are still very much in their infancy, even though I know Bitcoin's like $10,000 per Bitcoin. But as far as I'm concerned, things are still very much in their infancy. I think that the next generation, I think my nieces and nephews, and when they grow up, when they're my age, I think they're going to be using cryptocurrency on a daily basis without even thinking about it. It's just going to be normal in the same way that social media is normal. For our generation.
Yeah, I didn't think about it until recently. I went I went to a talk on money.
Okay.
Fascinating how we used to buy things with shells years ago and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like so it all makes sense to me. But I interviewed a futurist years ago who said money as we know it won't exist, and they believe that money as an exchange thing would probably not be as important as it was. They believed in the universal credit thing, they believed that was going to happen at some stage. We'd be using credits.
Yeah,
and stuff,
stuff changes quickly. I mean, even in my lifetime, from the mid to late 80s to now, it's totally incredible how much stuff has changed.
I always tell people this because it's a great fact. In my lifetime, I'm 51. The population of the world has doubled.
Wow.
I mean, doubled in my lifetime. In 50 years.
Yeah.
That's mad.
It is mad.
That's mental.
Yeah.
And I think people got to look at that and go, wow, this is really interesting. The world's heavily populated now. Right? Any life hacks?
Oh, life hacks. Oh.
Maybe a travel tip or a... What? Well, no, that's the next question.
Okay.
Exercise tips, diet tips, anything?
Wow. Okay.
If you haven't got one, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of something. Trying to think of something decent. Let's come back. It'll keep working in my back of my brain.
A couple more questions there. Can you recommend a book?
Any particular, just generally?
One that you think my listeners and viewers should read.
I would recommend. Okay, what have I read recently? I do read a lot of books. I recently finished reading The Coddling of the American Mind by Jonathan Haidt.
Okay.
So if someone wants to understand where lots of the stuff we were talking about earlier, the clamping down on free speech and some of these social justice ideas and things, if you want to understand where they stem from and sort of what the origins are and how they're impacting things, that's a really good book, actually. And it's very insightful. His other book as well, The Righteous Mind, absolutely incredible. If you're someone who is, whether you're religious and you don't understand atheists, or you're atheist and you don't understand religious people, or you're liberal and you don't understand conservatives, or you're conservative and you don't understand liberal, read The Righteous Mind. Absolutely incredible. Completely changed the way I understand the world.
Okay, final question, unless you can think of a life hack. You can't, can you? You're devoid of life hacks, Zuby. I mean,
I feel like I have loads.
You got all these amazing opinions on the world, and you don't even have a little hack for us at all. Traveling hack?
My life hack is to tell the truth.
Tell the truth. Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's important. All right, final question then. What is the meaning of life?
Whatever you want it to be.
That's no good. What's your meaning of life then?
Oh, me personally?
Yeah, go on then.
I've already told you to be the best that I can be and to have as positive an impact on as many people as I can before I leave.
10 million.
10 million plus. That's the goal.
10 million plus.
Hopefully I'll have the time to do it.
Listen, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. Can't wait to hear you on Joe Rogan. I'm fascinated by what you're going to get to talk about. And come back sometime. That'd be brilliant.
Absolutely, man.
Let me just quickly run through. Podcast is called Real Talk. Fitness book is called Strong Advice. The album is called Perseverance. That's right. Out at the moment. And if they want to follow you, at Zuby on Twitter, are you doing Instagram?
At Zuby Music.
At Zuby Music.
At Zuby Music.
What are you doing? Are you doing Instagram as well?
Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, all the same handle. At Zuby Music, ZUBY Music.
And you've got a website as well?
Yep, zubymusic.com, and teamzuby.com is my online store.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Top man.